And welcome back to Coral Gables Now. Residents have a lot to look forward to this new year, including our resident sports fans. A new program will let residents receive free tickets to select UM basketball games. Rodolfo Roman has that story and more on City News.
The University of Miami is giving an after-holiday gift for sports fans living in the City Beautiful. Coral Gables residents can receive up to 4 free tickets per household for upcoming Canes men's basketball games. The gift is courtesy of a recently approved 20-year development agreement between the school and the city. Tickets are available for December 12th against Stetson University, December 30th against Pepperdine University, Boston College on January 15th, and on January 19th against Florida State. All games are played at the Bank United Center on the school's campus. Tickets are limited. For the free tickets, you can call 305-460-5600. There is no better place to be than in Coral Gables this time of year, and what better way to enjoy the weather than with music and arts. Art in the Park brings the sounds of Latin rock, funk, and jazz to music lovers. The event takes place on January 7th and will feature local artists' work and great food. Call 305-644-8888 for information. Ever wanted to taste the best crops in town? Don't worry, because Coral Gables has you covered. Farmers Market is here, opening on January 15th and running through March 26th. Each Saturday, come out and choose picked produce, baked goods, and plants located in front of City Hall at 405 Biltmore Way. The free activity will offer gardening workshops and special cooking demonstrations from Coral Gables master chefs. For information on time and schedules, visit www.coralgables.com. Lastly, the historic Venetian pool will be closed through January 31st and will reopen on February 1st. Workers will be conducting repairs and general maintenance. For information, contact the City of Coral Gables Parks and Recreation Department at 305-460-5600.
Thanks, Rodolfo. And here at Coral Gables Now, you know we try to keep you updated on emerging threats and scams that can affect you. This month, we're going to explore a common and very dangerous crime that can strike anyone, which is healthcare fraud. Gary Opper, managing member of Levy Opper LLC, is here to shine some light on the topic. Gary, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, David.
So let's jump right into it. What are some examples of healthcare fraud? Because, I mean, again, we've talked about different scams and different frauds, but, I mean, healthcare, everyone at some point needs to go to the hospital or go to the doctor. Right. So,
well, of course, we ought to start off, most doctors, most hospitals are honest and ethical, so we're talking about a very small percentage. But some of the examples of healthcare fraud that we have is you have billing for services that you've never received. You have doctors and hospitals that may give you a false diagnosis, which may you want to incur a procedure or surgery that isn't necessary. They may do upcoding, which they may charge you for a procedure that's more expensive than the actual procedures that you had. There's a thing called unbundling, which when you take one procedure and you break it up into its individual steps, you may be able to charge more. These fraudsters may be able to charge more. And of course, you also have kickbacks where, you know, if a doctor recommends a certain procedure at another facility, of course, most of the time you're going to want to do the procedure.
Of course.
And if you go there, you know, if a doctor gets a kickback, there are some exceptions, but in a lot of cases, the kickback is illegal. And obviously, it adds to the cost of our health care.
And tell me a little bit about medical identity theft. I mean, is it dangerous to the victim? I mean, how does that work? What happens?
Well, it obviously it affects your quality of life. You know, you have to waste time trying to solve it. It can damage your credit. But most importantly is that if some wrong information gets into your medical record, it could be life-threatening to you.
And when you say life-threatening, what do you mean? What could it possibly do? What's the worst case that could happen?
Well, if somebody, let's say someone is allergic to something and someone uses their identity and they say, what are you allergic to? And they'll say nothing. And then let's say you're allergic to penicillin or you're allergic to some type of other medicine. And they give you that medicine because in your records it's been changed by somebody who's falsely used your records.
I see.
And that could be, you know, obviously that could be very life-threatening to you.
Of course. So with all these things that happen, it's not like the other scams and frauds that, you know, doing your research can really prepare you. That, you know, how do you prepare for this? Is there any way to avoid this?
Well, you just want to be very careful in what you do. Some of the things is if somebody offers you a free service or a free equipment, you really shouldn't have to give your Medicare number or your insurance number because it's a free service, or your credit card information. When you go to the doctor, if a doctor recommends a procedure, you should ask him, is there a less expensive procedure? Is it necessary? You may want to take someone with you to the doctor who's not involved in the actual diagnosis or the treatment, so they'll have a more of objective opinion about things. You just want to be careful and cautious.
And when you get a bill from a hospital or a doctor, what are some things that you should be looking for? I mean, maybe sometimes something may not seem right. What usually should you look for to make sure that it's right?
Well, when you get a bill from the doctor, hospital, or the insurance company, you should look at it immediately. You should make sure that there's nothing on the bill that they're charging you for that you didn't receive. You should also make sure everything on the bill that is on the bill is something you did receive, and that there are no double billings. And occasionally you ought to also go to your credit report and check to make sure that there's no medical bills or collections that show up on your credit card, on your credit report, that you need to investigate.
Now, is there any way you can tell the difference between, let's say, just a mistake on the hospital's part, or in fact they're trying to pull something on you?
You really can't. But obviously, the medical procedures are very complex. Hospitals are very large organizations. They do make mistakes. I'm not suggesting that a double billing is always medical fraud. It could be just a mistake. I mean, in a lot of cases, when you're in the hospital, I was in the hospital recently, and when you're billed for something, they may actually have barcoded it and brought it to you, and if you don't use it, then the taking off always isn't as good as the putting on the bill, so to speak.
Right.
Which is not necessarily fraud. It's just poor management. So
let's say that you may see something that's not right on the bill, or you try to get information on it. Well, I mean, if you know or you have a feeling that you are a victim of healthcare fraud, who should you go to?
Well, there's a lot of different organizations. I mean, the FTC is involved, the federal government is involved, the Attorney General is interested in hearing about that. Your insurance provider is interested, because obviously all these types of fraud, whether in some cases it might benefit you. For instance, if you're not charged for your deductible, or you're not charged for your copay, it seems good to you, and obviously you benefit, but in the long run, you're defrauding the insurance company.
Right.
So those are things that you want to bring up to whoever's the best person to bring it up to, whether it's the hospital administration, your insurance carrier, or the FTC, or some other organization.
And when these people get caught, let's say they get caught for doing a fraud, what happens to them?
Well, they are indicted. In fact, there is a medical fraud task force. It started 3 years ago. There's been over 800 people have been indicted, and the government has found that over $2 billion of fraud has been perpetrated on us. So it is being investigated, and there are indictments coming down.
And like everything else we spoke about, I mean, the way that the economy is going, do you see more and more of this too?
Well, unfortunately, as times get tougher, people take shortcuts, and people are looking to try to increase their bottom line or their top line. And unfortunately, fraudsters see this as a shortcut, and it's an unfortunate situation.
Of course, whenever they see a shortcut, they're going to take it. Gary, thank you again, for coming out and you explaining all this stuff. And next month, we're going to have you speak about email fraud.
Yes.
And so, I mean, now everybody gets random, weird spam emails and stuff like that. But this is actually some serious stuff, right?
Yes. Yes.
So just really quick, what are some examples that you can get?
It's very costly. Well, we had talked about earlier, there's the Nigerian fraud where people send you information, send you an email and ask you to send money in order to save a tribal princess or what have you. Or you have a case where a bank in England writes you and tells you that one of your family members died and you're the only heir and you can inherit 5 million pounds, but all you have to do is come up with $25,000 or something like that. So I mean, they sound silly. We're laughing about it, but obviously, the people who are sending them out send out enough that enough people bite that it is it is a crime, and it is dangerous, and people do lose money.
Exactly. Well, we'll go more into detail next month. Gary, thank you again for coming out.
Thank you, David.
And after the break, Rodolfo Roman is going to give you some healthy tips to help you get back into shape. Coral Gables Now will be right back.